Hello everybody. So tonight what I'm going to be doing is something that's been requested by several people, which is a tutorial such as it is, because I don't own or know everything there is to know about this game, but a tutorial for Sword of the Stars 2, which seems like a fairly complicated game, and it is complicated, just like many Paradox games. But it is a lot easier to deal with once you know some basic stuff, and it sort of becomes trial and error. So I'd like to do this for people who are having trouble with the game or have thought about buying the game but have heard really bad things. It got a lot of bad reviews in the beginning. That was due to a really fail release, but the developers were really good about reimbursing people and vowed to make the game what it should have been, and they've done a lot of post-release support, and I believe, in my opinion, and quite a few other people's opinions who have stuck with the game or more recently acquired the game, that it's much more finished product, it's a lot less buggy, and it actually ended up really being quite a good game, in my opinion. But you do have to like the sort of 4X strategy genre. So, that being said, I'm not going to wait for a whole bunch of people to join to watch it. What I'm going to do is just set this up for it to be recorded, so that we can go from there, and then everyone can watch it. But anyway, welcome to everyone who is here, or the few of you who are. And if anyone has questions along the way for anything I haven't answered, because I'm probably going to try and address everything I can think of, then by all means just ask. I'm going to pick something simple. But anyway, to start with, there are 6 factions in the game, and I would start small for your first game. Combat turn time, I personally always turn all the way up. It's only 12 minutes, but the reason that was done, I believe, is for multiplayer purposes, because it would get really drawn out, or because if you were not to do that, then well, it was done purposely to force combat to be in multiple phases, things like that, because it turns into a draw after 12 minutes, or if you win before 12 minutes, it isn't. But if you have multiple, like if the enemy were to bring in a large fleet, where it was more than one fleet technically, then you would fight the first fleet and get 12 minutes for that, and then you get 12 minutes for the next one, and 12. So it's not 12 minutes for every bit of combat during that turn. I don't really change most of these things. I think they're fairly balanced the way they are, with one exception. Random encounters is probably one of the most annoying things in this game, because even at 50%, we end up getting shit on most of the time by random stuff, and it's all bad. Random encounters are never good. So if you don't want slavers to rape your shit every 5 seconds, and ghost ships and everything else, which, by the way, ghost ships are horrendously, horribly evil, then the best thing you can do is to turn this down. I would say at most we use 50%, although we haven't gone below that yet. The initial treasury is fine. I don't really screw around with the initial tech or anything, or the victory conditions. So, that being said, I'll just confirm that. Now, I don't want to spend a whole lot of time on this screen because this is just a player select screen. I will say a few things, though, that have confused the hell out of us for a couple of games already. These guys are ugly as hell, but I'm going to go over what their strengths and weaknesses are before I... Well, I don't know about weaknesses. There are a few weaknesses that I know of, but before I pick one, one thing I want to make very abundantly clear is something that we did not know for quite a few games, which is this black color here for your Empire color. It's great, except apparently it's not actually considered a color in the game. I'm assuming this is one of those bugs that still remains. So if you launch the game and your character or your color for your Empire color is black, it will change to something random. So you want to change that from black, no matter how much you might actually want black, which a lot of the time we do want black. Why they did this, I don't know. Because here's how stupid it is. So if I pick red, that's all you can do with red. But on the ship color, you have a whole RGB thing. It's a whole like color palette that you can go through. But for some reason they decided not to do that for your Empire color. So you can't make black because you can make black for your ship color. You just can't make it for your Empire color. It's kind of bizarre. So, right. We're going to start with the first faction in the line here. Welcome again, you guys, to those of you who are joining. The first faction is Soul Force, which, for all intents and purposes, it's humans. And they are very much generalists, and these are the people I play as, and a lot of people play as these guys, because I don't like the way most of the other ships look, and I'm not sure I mean, I don't like the way that this whole drive system looks, but I've gotten used to it more and more because when you get better technology, it actually kind of looks cooler. So, it tells you up here about their strengths and not really about their weaknesses. But I would say the human strength is also their weakness, which is that they're technological generalists, so they have an even chance to develop anything. So they are no more predisposed to energy tech than they are mass driver technology, that sort of thing. So you're going to have equal chances for both. What that means is you're not going to have any easier time researching one or the other. There is no tech that the humans are going to be excelling at right off the bat. Now, they don't have any penalties to tech other than they just can't research. They don't have that ability to research one faster than any others. And their dreadnoughts are powerful, but then again, everyone's dreadnoughts are powerful, so I think it's saying they're especially powerful. Nothing else that really matters in here for me to speak of. Yes, that's great, Spartan. Anyway. There are also these immersion factions, which are basically different skins for your starting ships. The Soul Force one is not really much different, but I kind of like it better. I like the gray with the red. Now those are a Steam thing. Apparently it was some DLC that I got automatically. Anyway, next is the Hivers. Now these guys are pretty much like a... I suppose you could call them bees / bug race, because the way they work is, well, in hive ways, I guess you could say. I don't know too much about them, but I do know that they are slow to start up. If you want to play a sort of late game people, these would be the people to play, because how they work is, if you've watched Stargate or even heard of Stargate ever, you know they use gates to travel between different planets that have gates on them, and it's instantaneous travel between them because it creates, well, more or less because it creates a wormhole. Well, I don't know if they create a wormhole in this, but what you actually need to do is they travel. You can always travel to different places outside of the different... It works like Sins of a Solar Empire. So you've got phase lanes, or you've got jump lanes between systems. These guys will you can always click on a system that you, at least as far as humans are concerned, you can always click on a system that is not connected by a phase lane. But you have to travel sublight to there. And so what might have taken, if you were to do the same trip sublight as you do faster than light, what would have taken maybe 3 turns to get between systems would take like 60 turns. So we're talking, or maybe 30 turns, maybe 60 turns. Either way, we're talking a significant increase. So they're forced to travel sublight. And what they do basically is they bring up their gate seeding ship, and you have to do that at sublight. So in the very beginning of the game, for even just through the whole beginning of the game, you're very far behind everyone else in colonization, because it takes you 30 turns to get to the next system maybe, and then you can put a gate down. Now here's where their strength is. Once you put that gate down, it's, from what I understand, it's pretty much instantaneous travel, but for any of the other ships that you have between point A and point B where there are gates. So you have an extremely fast mid-game or late-game early response kind of thing. You could pretty much be anywhere in your empire, which is really kind of intimidating. I haven't encountered that yet as far as fighting them and them being... Because I haven't done a whole lot of combat, actually, because the problem is every time we play, we end up having to restart, or they want to restart because, oh, I don't like my empire, oh, I don't like my starting position. You know, one thing or another. It's a Paradox game, it always happens. So, I have to translate this to FPS player terms. Well, I'm not sure how I would do that. I don't. Pew pew. There you go. I'm just looking. So their specialties are ballistics and armor. So they also have the most durable ships in the game. Well, you know, you can sort of see that looking at it that it's going to be durable. You've got lots of armored plates sort of interlocking on the top. And their specialty is armor, and their specialty is ballistics. So they're predisposed to researching armor, but they're not. What that tells you is that they're not particularly predisposed to using shields. So you may not want to, if you're fighting one-on-one, for example, you may not want to bother with anything that would help you penetrate shields. You can skip any tech that does that, because they're probably not going to use that. And anything that helps you penetrate armor is a good bet. They specialize in ballistics as well, which means they're using mass driver technology. So you might want to gird yourself for protecting yourself against mass driver technology. So anyway, that's the Hivers, and then this is just to show that immersion Hivers, they look a lot more technologically advanced to me. I don't know, they almost look like more robotic. I kind of like this style better. It depends. I don't know. I like both. I'm kind of tired of games having bugs in them, so I like these kind of games. Yeah, Protoss. So Tarkasian is the next. And these guys are one of the ones where Ninja likes the immersion faction armor better, because it looks less like chitin. I'm not sure. It depends on this color scheme, but these guys are basically, if you know anything about Star Trek, even if you don't know anything about Star Trek, you've heard of Klingons, but they basically seem to be the Klingons of this game. They're very warrior cultish. One of the strengths of this race is that they can travel anywhere. It's more or less a normal Star Trek warp drive that these guys have. They can travel anywhere they want on the map. What that means, if you're their enemy, is that you can't rely on defending the jump lanes, because they can just simply go wherever they want. So what you should probably be focused on is early warning detection, so building naval bases on different systems, different planets, with a high level of sensors to hopefully see them before they get there, so you can redeploy to wherever they're going. Or just having a high level of naval bases. But I tend to not focus on or rely on defenses to stop them, because defenses are so expensive.